What is going on, guys? It's Gospel Game here. We are back on Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Now, I've done a little bit of digging in terms of seeing if I actually was near the end of the game, and it turns out I wasn't. So this is the final chapter. Apparently I have one more class trial to go through, which is great. Huh? That's weird. This is the hallway I walked through to get to the gymnasium, but it's clearly different. Is this Monokuma's doing too? Is he trying to confuse us again? I don't know how he's doing it, but he keeps doing it over and over again. He's so persistent. But I'm not going to fall for his trap. There's no way this can make me back down. Hi, Sonia. How are you?
There is a strange feeling to it now. As if an invisible wall has been erected to limit our movement. Is it just me?
It's almost like it's a video game. Are we in a video game? That's bio, that's not where I want to go. Oh, there it is. And what's that little book there? Is this a dojo? It's full of strange things that make me think there's no way we're inside a school. Perhaps it's a mistake to expect this inside of a building to make sense. What's this? Is this a manga? The title is Manga for Morons, A History of Hope's Peak Academy by Monokuma. Why is a manga with such a suspicious looking title laying out in the open like this? Let's start with the history class, first class. Reading manga is the third best way to learn about history. Then what's the first you ask? That depends on the person. So just as I thought, Monokuma made this. That totally explains how suspicious it looks. I really want to just ignore it, but there's no way I can do that. Fine, I'll look at it. I'll look at anything that might be a clue to getting out of here, no matter what it is. I picked up the manga off the floor and started flipping through the pages. It's an introduction to Hope's Peak Academy's history as narrated by the cutesy character on the cover. The story begins with an introduction to Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy is a government-funded school of privilege where only the most talented high school students can hope to attend. Built to raise hope in the nation's future, many of its alumni are key leaders of various industries. New students are chosen through a scouting process, but the ones who scout them are Hope's Peak Academy's teachers, who serve as both educators and researchers of talent. Hope's Peak Academy isn't just a school for talent, it is also a school for researching talent as well. However, for the past few years, Hope's Peak Academy has been suffering from a decline in funding. If this persists, the Academy believes they will not be able to make progress with their research of talent. So they decided to implement a new system, the Reserve Department. Unlike the main department who scouts for students, the Reserve Department utilizes a general entrance exam. I'm gonna have to be right back, someone's calling me. Normal faculty was hired and placed in charge after looking after the Reserve Department. The expenses and exam fees for the Reserve Department are quite high compared to most high schools. Nevertheless, Hope's Peak Academy received an endless stream of applicants. Hope's Peak Academy was now available to talentless commoners, people who only cared about the brand. With this, Hope's Peak Academy managed to amass a sizable funds and began further research of talent. To create Hope's Peak Academy's earnest wish, a true genius who would become mankind's hope. But just when they thought everything was going well, an unprecedented incident occurred. The incident that triggered the tragedy, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. That's right, it was the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy was crippled by this incident, and was forced to shut down without accomplishing anything. The end. Okay. Huh? The ending was so sudden, like a manga that's suddenly cancelled in the middle of its run. Plus these phrases mentioned at the end of this manga, the tragedy and the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. These names are so melodramatic there's no way these incidents really happened, right? The manga only mentions the names, but don't really know the details, but no. It'd just be a waste of time to wonder about things that don't make sense. More importantly, I learned something because of this manga. The Reserve Department. That department was only to build to collect money. I was one of those reserve course students, right?
That's weird.
Oh, you're here again.
The thing that's weird is you, of course.
Huh? Why did you forget that they were part of the reserve department? The Future Foundation only took away our school life memories, right? But you should have known even before the incident that you had no talent, right? So the thing would be weird that you actually forgot something like that too. What do you want me to say? Based on my assumption, the Future Foundation must have wanted to hide the fact that you were one of those reserve course students. Or you willingly sealed those memories away yourself. Huh? You wanted to be confident in yourself, so you wanted to forget everything that embarrassed you. You know, when humans experience trauma, sometimes they erase a memory of what happened. It happens pretty often. Not that I know or anything. Are you saying it's my fault that I forgot? That's not it. When things get inconvenient, you always get angry and try to brush it off. Well, that's expected of a reserve course student. Damn it, what the heck? Okay. Out we go. Oh, hi, Kazuichi.
What's going on?
So, it's kind of creepy. I can't go to places that I shouldn't be able to go to. It's like some rules being enforced for no reason. It's kind of like an invisible wall or something. You know, like a video game. There's another book in here. This is another manga. It's lying on top of the desk. This one is Manga for Morons, The Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Huh. Wasn't there Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy mentioned in the other manga too? That's why Hope's Peak Academy went bankrupt, and it was the trigger of the biggest, most tragic, most awful event in human history. If I read this manga, will I be able to learn a little more about that incident? I took the manga from the desk and started flipping through the pages to see what I could learn from the event known as the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. The story made heavy use of outdated, stylized drawings depicting characters solving mysteries. What's written here is, as the name suggests, the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy occurred at the Hope's Peak Academy. The key player in that event was a student named Izuru Kamakura. Izuru was a genius known as a symbol of hope. Hope's Peak Academy used all their resources to develop him. Supposedly Izuru was a genius among geniuses and possessed various talents. Wielding superior talent to the hope of mankind, the Academy referred to Izuru as the ultimate hope. To protect such rare talent, the Academy completely concealed all evidence of Izuru's origins and identity. Because of that, most of the students of the Academy were completely unaware of Izuru's existence. But Izuru, who was known as the symbol of hope, was responsible for a horrific incident. 13 students of Hope's Peak Academy Student Council, among the Academy's best and brightest, were brutally murdered by Izuru. However, the incident did not end there. The Academy tried to protect Izuru's superior talent and concealed the incident as though it never happened. However, a certain student began working in secret to use that incident as to their advantage. That student uncovered what the Academy did, and by making that knowledge public, it stoked the fires of reserve corps students who had long dissatisfied with how they'd been treated, and the uprising began, and that heralded Hope's Peak Academy's destruction. This is the entirety of the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Eventually, that incident would lead to that horrifying, devastating incident. The incident that would become known as the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Works cited Danganronpa/0. With a heavy sigh, I closed the manga. Am I supposed to believe this? There's no way 13 people were killed at Hope's Peak Academy.
What irony!
I don't know why I said that in that voice. For a genius knows the ultimate hope to cause such a gruesome incident. A talent like that is too regal for society. It's like trying to buy juice with a bar of gold. You should be lucky that he's incompetent. Damn it, he always has to lead up with something offensive. He's seriously pissing me off. But ultimate hope. Nagito mentioned that before too, but it looks like he meant something completely different here. What Nagito said was the true meaning of hope. But for Izuru, hope simply means talent. More importantly, a genius who possesses various talents. I wish they'd given me one of those talents so I didn't have to be in the reserve department. That's right, the reserve department. Here it said the reserve corps students in the reserve department began uprising. Then what about me? Was I a participant too? No, that's not possible. There's no way, I have no reason to do something like that. Okay. Anyway, I've learned about the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy, but the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history is far worse incident, right? What kind of incident was it? And who's this other student that isn't Azuru? A certain student who secretly used the incident to their advantage. Who is that? This incident is really messed up. All it's doing is raising more questions. The mysteries just keep piling up. Okay. Okay. So we want to go to this place. Good old Biolab. What the hell is this room? It's freaking cold in there. It's like I'm in a freezer or something. If I just stand still, I might end up freezing to death. I should hurry up and investigate so I can get out of here already. Hello.
I've been found.
Damn right you have. There's another manga just laying around here. This time the title is Manga for Morons, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. I knew it. The next one would be obvious about this incident. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, huh? Just what was that incident really all about? It might turn out to be something lame. I flipped through the pages of the manga and hoped that I was right. A story about creepily drawn characters who get involved in such horrifying incidents. An incident known as the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Is this drawn so grotesquely because the incident itself was so the incident itself is that grotesque? Anyway, the beginning of this creepy manga starts with a sentence. The tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was simply the trigger. At first, the uprising by the reserve corps students that triggered the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was initially hoped to be resolved quickly, but the situation continued to escalate to dangerous extremes. The movement started spreading all over the internet and fostered a thriving online community. The community was not limited to students, and people of various races and nations began joining in. But the movement was not confined to the internet and began spreading and eroding the real world. When the movement started, it was indistinguishable from any other demonstration inspired by social unrest. But as it spread across the world, certain abnormalities soon came to light. By then it was too late. The ends and means had already vanished, and it was a wanton destruction became their only goal. The strong butchered the weak killed the weakest among them, and soon the weak formed factions to brutally murder the strong. As the violence and death continued to spread, the shock of their actions began to disappear. As if the era was regressing into more uncivilized times, with senseless deaths were the norm. The media was oversaturated, I don't know how I mispronounced that, with deaths to the point where people would watch them while enjoying a meal. By the time the world realised what it had become, it was too late to stop what had happened. A feeling of immense despair began spreading and eventually engulfed the world. Acts of terrorism and coups d'etats began occurring around the world, a war waged in the name of despair. A war fought not for principles, religion or personal gain, just war, pure war. And because of that, there was no way to resolve it. How could a movement started by high school students progress to such a hopeless scenario? The only explanation is the existence of a certain organisation, devoted to a certain student who influenced Hope's Peak Academy, a group called the Ultimate Despair. Instead of using Hope's Peak Academy's talents for the sake of mankind's hope, they used them for the sake of mankind's despair. Key members of society used their influence to brainwash the masses in order to spread despair. Tech-savvy computer programmers wrote software to spread despair. The powerful and influential created new values and morals to spread despair. And with this, they created the tragedy, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. As long as ultimate despair exists, the despair engulfing the world will never end. The tragedy will never end. My heart was racing in my chest, but my body felt ice cold. And it wasn't because I was freezing in this room. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, this is definitely all made up. I mean, if this is really true, then what's happening to the outside world? My family, my friends, the convenience store I frequent, the nearby bookstore, my favourite restaurant. What's happened to them? Hey, you seriously the alien manga? How crazy are you? Who would enjoy reading something like this? Oh my, you don't like manga? A high school student who doesn't like manga isn't like an office lady who doesn't like to eat candy. Enough. What's this messed up manga? I thought you'd obviously know about such a horrible event that destroyed the world, but for you not to remember that's such despair. That's the Future Foundation's fault, though. That's them stealing your school memories. The incident that happened during the period has been completely removed from your brains. This incident really happened and I actually forgot about it? There's no way that's possible. I don't have to tell you. All the clues here are real. Please understand, I'm rooting for you. If you don't learn about the full extent of the outside world, you guys will suffer for it. I just want to help you guys with life well-adjusted living outside the world. Fucking hell, I can't talk. I see, so that's how it is. That's what he meant by what he said at the beginning. Well, as the headmaster, I'm conflicted, you know. On one hand, I'm really happy that you're finally going to graduate. On the other hand, I'm worried about whether you guys will be okay in the outside world. That's why I'm thinking about telling you what the outside world is like before you make a decision. Whether you want to leave Jambok Island or stay here. He's trying to make us feel despair towards the outside world so we'll want to stay on this island. There's no way I'm going to do what he wants. Despair like that simply can't exist. The outside world should be filled with hope. Just like now. Perhaps no, that's definitely it. Okay. Whether or not this incident really happened, what in the world is this ultimate despair group? If they're devoted to a certain student who guided Hope Speak Academy to his destruction, are they connected to both the tragedy and the tragedy of Hope Speak Academy? Plus that organisation isn't just one person but a group of people. But if they're known as ultimate despair, they're high school students, right? Well, if they were actually able to do it, then I guess that's why they were called ultimates. Then, other killings were involved and connected to them as well? It's no use, I'm going to freeze to death. I'm at my limit, I need to get out of here. Shivering, I ran out of the freezing room. Phew, that was close, I nearly froze to death. So where should I go next? Well, I'm going to end the episode. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like in the section below, and if you want to see more of this, then do subscribe to the channel, as I upload every day. So thank you for watching, I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.